a Q&A. I had told you guys that I was going to do a Q&A in April, and I picked questions off of my Instagram and off of YouTube to answer. And the first question is from Owen Biggs. Do you have any wild caught animals? So Rainbow is a Mustang, like I've told you guys, and she is a BLM Mustang, which means she's not a Mustang that was, you know, born in captivity from other Mustangs. She's actually a wild caught Mustang, and so they have these programs available so that you can adopt these horses and even sometimes donkeys and give them a home, because they wouldn't be able to all live out there on the land. The land can't support all of the horses that, you know, are born every year. So it's a really good program because it does keep track of the population of the wild horses, and it also controls the population. So Rainbow's the only animal that I have that is a wild caught animal. I suspect that my prairie dog Theodore was wild caught. I was told that both him and Pepper were born in captivity, but I do suspect that Theodore might have been wild caught just because of the, you know, way he acts. He's just not very tame and just so timid around people. And with that, it's kind of the same thing except worse. In North America, the prairie dogs are killed a lot. Anytime somebody wants to come in and develop the land, they want to clear out all of the prairie dogs, and that's usually by killing them. And so sometimes people will go in there and they will trap very young prairie dogs and then sell them off as pets. And that's probably what happened with Theodore, but I'm not 100% sure. I really don't know exactly what his background is. And even if he is wild caught, he would have been saved from being killed, so is it that bad? I don't know. I mean, he does live a pretty good life now, so I guess it's okay. Ewan5 asks, do you like Star Wars? Do I like Star Wars? Star Wars is life. Flower0066, can I turn my dog into a service dog for companionship because he is a Chihuahua and he gets a lot of anxiety and really sad when I leave him? Okay, so the very first thing to understand about service dogs is that they are trained dogs that are trained to assist a person with a disability. So if you have a disability, you can have a service dog. If you do not have a disability, you cannot have a service dog. The second thing to understand is that these dogs go through tons and tons of training. They have to do something to help your disability. They have to physically do something for you. So a service dog is not a dog that you just don't leave at home because you feel sad. That's not what a service dog is. Now, if a service dog does have, if a dog does have issues with something like anxiety, temperament, anything like that, it automatically cannot be a service dog. So wanting to say that you want to bring your dog with you and make it a service dog because it's sad when you leave just isn't possible. It's not covered at all under the Americans with Disability Act. And usually I get the question the other way around, where people say, I have anxiety so I want to bring the dog with me. And in that case, the dog has to be trained to do something for your anxiety, to physically do a task for you that helps with your anxiety, not just sit there with you and therefore makes you feel better. That doesn't count either. If you do want to learn more about service dogs, I will link some of that information down below. You should never pass off your dog as a service dog because that is a federal offense and it does directly harm those that actually need a service dog. Olivia X Crybaby _ if you ever have kids, will you keep all your pets or will you rehome your animals? Love you and your videos. There's absolutely no reason that I would rehome my animals if I had kids. I do want to have kids, and I hope my kids will want to be involved in you know, being with the animals, caring for the animals. I can't force them, obviously, but I would hope that they would like animals, and there's just no way that I would be rehoming my pets because of kids. I really just don't even understand when people rehome a dog because they're gonna have a baby. Like, you can have a baby and you can still take care of your dog. Lots of people do it. Dance _ fan1, do you feed Barry and your green sheet conures pellets, or is fresh food their full diet? Fresh food is basically my parrots' complete and full diet. They don't get any pellets whatsoever, and they do get seeds, but they have to forage for their seeds. they don't get seeds in their bowl. So the seeds is like a treat for them. But the fresh food that I post on Instagram once a week, my chop recipes, that is their complete and full diet. Oh, except for the parakeets, they do get about 50% seeds in their bowl, and it's in the morning they get their chop, and then in the afternoon they get their seeds. Kenzie Mo _ hi Megan, what's your favorite crested gecko food? I want to own one, but not sure what brand of food to feed. What's your opinion? Also, my favorite pets are sugar gliders. Love you and your videos. I would have to say that my favorite food for crested geckos is crickets, and that's because most people are of the misunderstanding that crested geckos do not need live food. Crested geckos do need insects in their diet, live insects, and that can be crickets, mealworms, waxworms, dubia roaches. I prefer crickets because it gives them something to hunt and it keeps that activity for them. But I know that you are also asking for, what type of formula food to feed them, and Pangea is a good one. However, my favorite one, let me go get it. My favorite one for them is this Natural Zone Herb Products Bites for Fruit-Eating Geckos. This one I found at Petco, and my crested geckos really seem to like it. It's been hard to get them to eat any of the other foods, but they do eat this. MBMB111, what do you think of Peta? The old Peta question. I think it's people who are after attention that want to feel like they're doing something good just for the sake of making themselves feel better and not actually caring about animals. It's those activists that just want to make a scene and pretend like they have a lot of passion towards what they're doing, but it's just very misplaced. They aren't well informed. I mean, PETA's end goal is to end all pets, like all captive animals, and that's including dogs and cats as well. So I think if you want to support PETA, you need to really understand what their goal is, and that means not having any type of pet. PETA is all about animal rights, whereas I'm more in support of animal welfare. But then again, I love animals and I'm not a vegan, so I know people do have very different opinions and ideas about that, but that's mine, and if yours is something different, that's okay too. And the next question is from Rebecca Lowe. Has Rainbow ever kicked or bitten you? So Rainbow has never kicked or bitten me. I have been kicked and bitten by horses. I got bit by one horse that had a baby, and I was petting her baby and she was not happy about that, so she actually bit me on my back. It wasn't bad. Then another horse, I got thrown from that horse because the car backfired and the horse got spooked. And it was a really big horse, and I'm a really small person, and I always ride bareback, you guys know that. So I did not have a good grip on that horse because it was so big, and my legs just did not wrap around that horse very well. So I got thrown, and then the horse had spooked. I actually somehow ended up underneath the horse, and she was trying to not step on me, and then actually ended up kicking me down my back. So it wasn't really her fault, it was just kind of like the situation what happened. But those were some of the times that I have been kicked and bitten, but not by Rainbow, and I actually have never fallen off of Rainbow, so knock on wood, I hope that never happens. Wild with Roxy asks, would you ever open a pet shop or pet farm? Did you like Harry Potter? I would never open a pet shop because I wouldn't want my income to have to come from selling pets. I think one of the things people don't understand is that when you're trying to make your income off of selling pets, sometimes you're not able to put them in the best situations, and that's why even good pet stores, sometimes the pets go to wrong people, they don't know how to care for them, but at the end of the day, the person that owns the pet shop is trying to make a living, trying to pay their bills, and trying to support their family. So certain things like that are going to come first over what they think is best for an animal, and I don't want things like that to be, you know, what I'm thinking about when it comes to animals. I want to be able to give the animal the best thing for it and not have, you know, other things on my mind, such as like how am I gonna pay for my bills, or how am I gonna support my family, or things like that. So I would never open a pet shop. And then the second question was, or pet farm. I don't exactly know what you mean by that. I mean, I do have a farm already, but I guess if you mean like open it up to the public, I don't know. Not right now. We're not really in a position to do that. That, you know, requires the right insurances. I need a lot of staff to make sure that both people and the animals were safe. You know, maybe it's something I would do in the future, but just it wouldn't be good for me right now. And yes, I do like Harry Potter. I really liked it, and then I feel like it just kind of became too much. I don't know, just like constantly hearing about it and stuff. But I do really like the new movies, and I do look forward to seeing more of that. Jason V asks, what is your oldest animal? Rainbow's the oldest. She's about probably like 22 or 23, give or take. And then Plata would be the second. She's 20, and Plata was born in Peru. That's how old she is, because now they're not being imported anymore. Eloise Hick asks, do you remember every single pet's name? P.S. I wish I was allowed that many pets. Love you so much. Yeah, I remember all of my pets' names. I get this question a lot, and so many people are like, how do you remember all of these names? But it's kind of like, how do you remember all the names of your friends and family? I mean, if you count how many family members you have and how many friends you know, or just people you know, whether that's at school or at work, or the celebrities that you know, how do you remember all of their names? That's the same way that I remember my pets' names. They're just, I just remember them. I also get a lot of kids that comment saying, I wish I was allowed to have that many pets. And you just have to remember that, you know, I take care of the pets, I pay for the pets, I don't live with my parents. So that's all reasons as to why I don't have to ask somebody if I'm allowed or not to have the pets. So just remember that, and don't think like, oh, why am I not allowed to have that many pets? It's just when you're adult, then you get to do what you want. Saruchi Crowdry asks, what do you think of exotic pets? Ones like tigers, lions, chimpanzees, etc. Not the ones like sugar gliders. So I think if I was against exotic animals as pets, I would be a huge hypocrite. All animals, except for maybe the exception of cats, which arguably might have domesticated themselves, but all animals, horses, goats, dogs, those animals were domesticated by someone. They didn't just automatically, you know, start becoming people's pets. Guinea pigs were not made in a pet factory. All of these animals were at one point wild. Whereas maybe some of the animals like sugar gliders were only wild about 30 or 40 years ago, which maybe not even that long. There in the 1990s there were still sugar gliders being imported, or dogs that were domesticated way long time ago. But at one point all of these animals were domesticated. So I think it's hypocritical to say, oh, that animal is a pet, but that animal is not a pet. And it kind of, you know, depends on what a person thinks of as a pet. So somebody who wants the type of pet that is a dog, like that type of personality and, you know, being able to train it and the way that it acts with humans, if, you know, that's what they want as a pet, then getting something like a pet fox is not a good idea for them. But somebody who understands that a pet fox is going to be nothing like a dog, or, I mean, even nothing like a cat, then I don't see that there's anything wrong to actually have that as a pet. As long as you understand what that animal's going to be like, you understand how to care for it and all of its needs, you know how to provide for its dietary needs, and you understand that it needs, you know, environmental enrichment, then I think that you should be able to have that as a pet. Now, some pets like prairie dogs are going to be a lot easier to keep in captivity than a pet like a tiger. Now, I wouldn't, you know, be able to have the means to be able to keep a tiger comfortably, but if somebody else does, why should I be against that? Like, I have sugar gliders and I'm able to keep them really comfortable. So if somebody is actually able to keep a tiger comfortable, then, you know, what's wrong with that? So I'm not at all against any type of animals being kept as pets. The only thing I would say is that animals from the ocean, like dolphins and whales, cannot be kept in captivity because we just cannot, it's impossible to provide them with what they need. So as long as you can provide that animal with what it needs, then I don't see anything wrong with that. The next question is from Amishad Hamzavi. I can't pronounce any of these. What day is your birthday? My birthday is April 4th, and I just turned 25 this month. And Jada Baham asks, happy birthday. My question is, what do you do when you're not taking care of your pets? By the way, I love your videos, they're great, don't stop me. So when I'm not taking care of my pets, I watch a lot of Netflix and Hulu, and then I also play video games, and I read books sometimes. I also really enjoy going out, so like going out to eat and going out to the movies. And I like to see a lot of movies, of course all of the like Star Wars and superhero movies and all of that. I also like to do paintings, and so I do a lot of oil and some acrylic paintings. And that's some of the stuff you guys have seen when I give away posters and stuff like that. And I also like to do a lot of crafts. And I also like to do cosplay. And so this last month I was actually doing a steampunk cosplay, and I was making like all of my stuff. So like I made my own guns and my own like hat, had a bunch of stuff, and I posted some photos of that on Instagram. So I really like doing stuff like that where I'm making things. And then I also go to the gym on a regular basis of at least like 4 times a week. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that I do. Alexandra Fincher asks, do you think it's cruel to clip bird wings? So for that, yes, I do think that it is cruel to clip a bird's flight feathers, which I'm assuming you mean actual, like, you know, clipping their flight feathers, because there are some people that clip the wings and that's permanent. I think that's extremely cruel. It's painful. It's not necessary. If you don't want the bird to fly, you can just cut the flight feathers. But for this, let's just talk about the flight feathers. I think it's cruel to keep a bird from flying, but at the same time, I do think that it is necessary in some cases with parrots that have behavioral problems, and you know, you get this new parrot that you've adopted and you want to try to bond with it and get it used to socializing with humans again, so you clip the flight feathers in order for that to be an easier process. So in the case of my birds are pretty well behaved for parrots, so I do not have their flight feathers clipped. My birds fly all around the house every day and they really enjoy that, so I wouldn't want to take that away from them. But I do see why it would be necessary in some cases, but I think the goal would be to not do it. Lizzie Mathis, how do you come up with names for all of your pets? So when I'm naming my pets, I'm usually like naming them after things that I like, and that's like Barry's actually from The Flash because I really like superhero movies and superhero shows. Whereas with Clark, his name comes from The 100, and there's a girl character that's name is Clark, but it's a boy or a girl's name, so you know, some people probably think it comes from like Clark Kent, and that's okay too because I also like that character. Now for other names, I do also sometimes try to stick with a certain theme, so like Cupcake and Twinkie, they're, you know, little sweet foods. And then with the gerbils, some people have caught this, are named after the Rice Krispie treats. But yeah, I just try to think of names that are really fitting for my animals and names that I like, of course. Wendy Blum asks, when do you plan on getting another pet and what pet is it? So that's one thing, is that I don't exactly, I usually don't plan ahead of time on getting my pets. I actually just kind of get opportunities to get them and then end up getting them. Clark's one of the only ones that I actually like waited months to get, and there's been a few like that, but some of them it's more unplanned. But one thing though is that I don't get pets based off of what other people tell me or want me to do. I get the pets that I want or know that I can adopt and give a good home to. So a lot of times people are commenting on my YouTube channel saying, get this type of pet, I want you to get this pet, and that's just not something that's going to happen. I am never going to get a pet because somebody commented and told me to get that type of pet. Michaela Hendrick asks, how do I send you fan mail? So you can send me fan mail to my P.O. box right here. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And let me know if you guys would like for me to do a live Q&A later this summer. And you can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!